I need to tell you about 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis. My wife and I needed a bathroom remodel done badly. Our bathroom was disgusting. But here's the deal. We didn't want to wait 6 weeks. We didn't all want to stuff into our downstairs bathroom where we had to pile up and pile in. We didn't want to have to stop using an area of our house that we literally use every day for 6 weeks. So then we found 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis. And they remodeled our full bathroom in 48 hours. And it is updated. It is modern. Take a look for yourself if you're watching on YouTube. Our bathroom prior, ugly floors, nasty color, moldy shower, slippery tub, one sink, disgusting looking vanity. And voila, 48 hours later, new floor, new bathtub, new shower surround, a double sink, and a new vanity. Sure, it was an investment, but when you put something into your kitchen or your bathroom, you get that money back. And we got our bathroom back in 48 hours. 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis will get the job done right, and will get the job done fast. There's really no other better option. 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis. Check them out today. Get a free consultation and be a happy customer like my wife and I are today. We love it. You will love yours too. Welcome into the Minnesota Tim podcast. Thank you for making this podcast a part of your day. While you're here, hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube or listening somewhere else. The Minnesota Vikings had press conferences yesterday, a few days before the NFL draft takes place, where they're answering numerous questions as optional OTAs begins. And the biggest question that really everybody has wanted answered since the beginning of August or September revolves around JJ McCarthy, because the Minnesota Vikings invested a top 10 pick into this quarterback. And they have really given him the keys to the franchise moving forward. So players were asked about McCarthy. Kevin O'Connell was asked about McCarthy. So let's talk about it. Kevin O'Connell was asked about JJ McCarthy's health, and he gave a very important update on McCarthy. He said, there are no limitations to JJ McCarthy as the Vikings enter their offseason training regimen. And this is very important because of what happened mid-season. Okay, you rupture your meniscus in preseason. It happens. You do a little surgery, you take care of it, and you should be good for a long time. Nobody was really concerned about the long-term ramifications of McCarthy's injury when it went down in that first preseason game against the Raiders. However, when it was being reported that doctors had to go into McCarthy's knee again and clean it up, give him an injection, or do whatever they had to do with his knee, that raises eyebrows. Because as much as you try to frame it as, oh, it was just a cleanup, oh, it was just a simple procedure, the truth is they had to go into his knee again because they did not like something that they saw, and they had to take care of it. Which brings up a lot of fears and a lot of worry, not just among Minnesota Vikings fans, but decision makers inside the Minnesota Vikings organization. Because let's face the facts. If McCarthy cannot perform at a high level, and the Vikings, which appear to have a Super Bowl roster ready in place, aren't performing at a Super Bowl level, McCarthy is going to get the blame, which also is going to turn the finger towards the decision makers within the Vikings organization. And then they're going to be fired. A large part of the future of the decision makers within the Vikings organization hinges on the development and the performance of McCarthy. It would be one thing if the Vikings roster was no good and you're trying to draft this quarterback to save the franchise and to take the franchise and the organization out from the gutter. But it's not that way right now. Everybody believes that this Vikings organization and roster is Super Bowl ready, offensively and defensively, with the additions that they made in free agency. And if McCarthy steps in and stinks up the joint, or is unhealthy and can't play because of an injury, there's a lot of concern and a lot of worry. So the fact that Kevin O'Connell went into his press conference, answered questions about McCarthy, and didn't come with this poo-poo, whatever this crap means. Yeah, we're not sure. We'll see what happens when he hits the field. We're going to take it we're going to take a lot of precautions. We're going to be cautionary with him. We're going to go slow. No. He made a definitive statement and said, there are no concerns or no limitations to McCarthy and the knee that he injured in preseason and the knee that had to get cleaned up again mid-season. So this is a very important update from the Vikings brass. Harrison Smith also took to the podium and answered questions from reporters. And he said this about McCarthy. And there's nothing surprising about it. He says, he's a guy I enjoy being around a lot. He's his own person. He speaks his mind. He has his own way of thinking about things. Very smart, very invested in football and winning and competing. Football-wise, he's tremendously talented. He is doing a lot of good things in training camp last year, in my opinion, as a guy going against him. But just being around him, obviously, it's a tough position to be a high pick, and things look like they're going well. And the season is gone. That's a whole different struggle or whatever it is to overcome. But I've been fortunate to spend some time with him. Got to play golf with him in Mexico. We had a good time. He had some great shots. I enjoy my time with him. He's an interesting fellow, and I think is a little smarter beyond his years. This is what everybody says and thinks about McCarthy. There's going to be nobody within the Vikings organization that despises McCarthy, because there are no questions about McCarthy's dedication to the game. When the Vikings were interviewing him pre-NFL draft, one thing that they knew for certain following their interview was how much McCarthy loved the game. There might be more talented guys like Jaden Daniels or Drake May or Caleb Williams that the Vikings could not grab in the draft because they went top 3. But they also felt confident snagging McCarthy and trading up one spot to get him and making him the highest drafted QB in Vikings history because of what Harrison Smith said right there. There is a maturity level about McCarthy that brings so much comfort and ease to the Vikings organization and fan base. Because as SHIT crazy as Jordan Addison is, getting pulled over for driving 160 miles an hour, being found in the middle of an interstate in California, a week after Kyrie Jackson's death, JJ McCarthy brings a level-headed, smart football player that's beyond his years. And you don't have to worry about what he's doing off the field. You don't have to worry about him putting in the time or effort to study film or prepare for an opponent. The dude loves football. He loves the game. And McCarthy would probably die on that football field if that's what it took to win a Super Bowl for the Minnesota Vikings. There's one more story coming from Adam Schefter, and it revolves around Kirk Cousins potentially coming back to the Minnesota Vikings in a trade. Because what we all know is that the Minnesota Vikings don't really have a solidified backup quarterback. And it's been the story all offseason. Because we were all certain that McCarthy would be the top quarterback on the roster. But he did miss all of last season. Which means the backup quarterback position becomes all that much more valuable to the Vikings organization because McCarthy has not proven himself to be a durable, healthy quarterback because he's only had 1 year and he was hurt the entire season. And Adam Schefter had this to say about Kirk Cousins. Quote, "There's a feeling around the league that a team, whether it is the Vikings or Steelers, might be willing to pay down roughly $10 million. How much any team would be willing to pay also would influence the compensation it gives up. The higher the payment, the lower the draft compensation. The lower the payment, the higher the draft compensation." Because that all deals with the Atlanta Falcons and the amount of money that they owe Kirk Cousins next year because they signed him to that massive contract. And Kirk Cousins has a no trade clause in his contract. So he could really dictate where he wants to go. The question is, would the Vikings and Kirk Cousins be interested in a reunion? And I could see the Vikings being marginally interested in a Kirk Cousins reunion. But I could not see Kirk Cousins interested in coming to the Vikings again. Why would he? He sold his house. He left the organization. I don't think Vikings fans hate Kirk Cousins. I don't think they despise him. But I also don't think they're going to welcome him back with open arms and have this grand celebration that Kirk Cousins is coming home to Minnesota. The reason why Kirk wants to leave Atlanta is it because he's the number 2 guy behind Michael Penix Jr. If he comes to Minnesota, he's still the number 2 guy behind JJ McCarthy. And as good a backup quarterback as he would be to McCarthy, because let's face it, if he came to Minnesota, he's probably the best backup quarterback option Minnesota has. But why would he want to get traded to an organization where he would play the same role as he would with the organization that he's trying to get traded from? Makes zero sense. So you do a tiny deep dive into the truth and facts behind the situation, into what a player's thinking. Kirk Cousins would want zero part to do with the Minnesota Vikings. because he's not coming to be the guy he's not coming to Minnesota to be the team that's just missing a quarterback like Kirk Cousins on a Super Bowl ready roster. He's coming to be the backup quarterback to McCarthy. He's coming to be the Joe Flacco. And after Kirk's benching mid-season with the Falcons, the last thing he wants to do is to sit behind another quarterback next year. Kirk wants to prove himself to the Falcons, to the Vikings, that he is worthy to be QB1. And the best options for Cousins at this moment is a trade to the Steelers, is a trade to the Browns, is a trade to some roster that is missing the most important piece on the roster and believes that maybe there is one more good season for Kirk Cousins. And maybe 1 year after his Achilles rupture, he would be more healthy and ready to play football at the highest level. So you think about these theories and these reports, Kirk would not want to get traded to the Vikings. And I don't know if the Vikings really wanted to give up draft compensation to bring in Kirk Cousins. Maybe a future 6th round pick. But the Vikings already only have 4 draft picks this coming season. So why would they want to depart with one of those? So you look at all the facts and all of the feelings about the situation, and there's really no realistic possibility that Kirk Cousins would land with the Minnesota Vikings again. To me, it's really only a story because he once played for the Vikings. And it's a story again because of the connections and because he used to play for the Vikings. If he didn't play for the Vikings, it would be a non-story. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you for watching this episode. Remember, 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis. Check them out today. Get the bathroom that you dreamed of right now. Free consultations. Check them out today. 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis. Thank you for making this podcast part of your day. Hit that subscribe button. Everyone have a good day.